So I'm Tyler Downey, and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Sage, and I'm here tonight to share my story of classroom pet addiction, and also to make a case for having pets in the classroom for students because it improves the learning environment. So I named my presentation Lions, Tigers, and Bears, oh my, because it's a fun phrase and it hints at the wonder of wild things, which is really where my story begins. But before I go any further, I have an obligation to fulfill to my class this year. That's me wrestling an alligator. Okay, I might not actually be wrestling the alligator, but I'm working hard to help his handler get him out of the travel cage so that he can walk freely among my students. This picture and the next are from a few years ago when I was fully in the middle of my animal hoarding problem. You can see in the background of the picture that there are students sitting on the floor. The man handling the gator and his traveling zoo, along with our annual pet day at school, were part of the setting which led to what my principal at the time eventually began to refer to as Downey's animal problem. That was my first classroom pet. Things began the way most addictions do, with the idea that just one couldn't hurt. I was in my 2nd year of teaching. I held a riding contest for my students, and the winners were allowed to come with me to the pet store to choose a pet. That is how Speedy the Russian tortoise became my first. My second pet became a snake. I was hoping my students that won the contest would choose a snake, but they didn't, and I think snakes are cool, and I'd always wanted one, so I decided to buy one. Speedy didn't really do much anyway, and I thought a snake would be much more entertaining. Next, I had the Cuban tree frog named Larry. Larry was the first. Larry was my first gift of a pet. It came from some parents of one of my students, and after that, I started to get many more pets. The next 2 pets I had were leopard geckos, and leopard geckos came to me from a student whose leopard gecko had babies, and she had extras. After that, things got rolling. I wound up with 2 toads, another snake, a rabbit, some walking sticks, a tank full of baby trout, and a desert tortoise. And those were just my full-time pets. Never mind the rats, spiders, hamsters, guinea pigs, and birds that took temporary refuge in my room. I had 18 pets at all. So to begin, there were initial costs. I bought fancy cages and fish tanks and terrariums to put my pets in, and then I filled them up with all the things that the salespeople at the store told me were essential. So I was constantly buying things: fruit, vegetables, mice, crickets, special bedding, sterilized sand, dirt, pebbles, substrate, and let's not forget all the different light bulbs, heating lamps, and misters. It got to be really, really expensive. So eventually, after purchasing all these things, I decided that it was about time for me to save a little bit of money and maybe back off on new pet acquisitions and work on my skill as a carpenter, which turned out not to be much. And I began making my own cages. But the problem was, my problem was my cages never kept my snake in the cage. She was an expert escape artist. She escaped twice, once for 2 months over the course of the summer, another time for a month. She was found in a student's backpack. And so I started buying professionally built cages again. And I gave away, or I should say I didn't really give away, but I spent a lot of money over the years. I did some calculations, and I figured that over 9 years, I spent over $5,000 maintaining my classroom pets. And that was a lot of money. But now I want to talk about the benefits. As you can see from SpongeBob and Gary here, one of the things that pets do for us is they put smiles on our faces. And if you look at the pictures, it doesn't matter what kind of an animal it is, children respond well. And the smile is really what it's all about, because the smile shows a connection. And as an IB school, I think connection is what we're really striving for. The learner attitudes, all of the learner attitudes come into play when students go about taking care of and interacting with a classroom pet. A few of them are listed up there on the board, but curiosity is probably the biggest one. Oftentimes the pets are new to students, and they develop a lot of these character traits. Did my slide go backwards? All right. So that's a great picture. Everybody give a hand to SpongeBob and Gary there. All right, so going on to the learner profile, possibly, maybe. I think my slides may have, nope, going backwards again. There we go, learning attitudes, one more. Cool, learner profile. All right, so kids become more open-minded as they get to know certain pets. They learn not to judge until they've experienced things for themselves. They get to practice being principled, When they have to consider the needs of their pet, they learn to make sacrifices and do what is right. Finally, pets teach kids to be more caring. When the well-being of the pet is put into student hands, their whole outlook can and does change. And to sum up, having classroom pets creates a learning environment in which students feel more connected, and as a result, they have more opportunity to grow as IB learners. I just want to finish with the promise that if I'm allowed to have a pet next year, I will not lose control, I will not become a pet hoarder, and I will keep my snake contained. Thank you.